Hey everyone, Foisey Aquatics here, and I'm here to bring you another documented pleco spawning. So this one is Longfin Super Red Bristlenose Plecos. Some of the best Bristlenose Plecos you can get. They're easier to sell, and they sell for more money, and they breed just as easy as any other Bristlenose. So I have a pair in this 20-gallon long tank, and this is probably their 6th time breeding for me. And this is an amazing pair. I thought about making them a trio, adding another female, but I'm not even going to mess with it because this pair is breeding every month like clockwork. So I'm getting lots and lots of fry from them. And their batches of fry are huge too, usually at least 50 in each batch, and that's great for plecos that are just starting to breed. So as you can see, the eggs are already in there, and they weren't laid on the back of the cave. This cave is a little small, so I'm going to go a size up after this spawning. I wasn't able to capture the actual spawning process because this pair spawns very quickly. They spawn overnight, and I almost never catch it. This is what the female looks like beforehand. I shot this video at a separate time, but you can see she's gravid there, full of eggs. And then when they're spawning, it looks like this, just a mess of fins, and can't tell which is which, but this is what it would look like. I did manage to capture it at a different time. And this is the new size cave I've given them that gives them enough space to actually lay the eggs in the back of the cave. So moving on now to the next stage. Alright, so it has been 5 days since that last video, and the eggs are now hatched. You can see all the little wigglers on the back of the cave there, and the father is still guarding the cave. And a couple wigglers did make it out of the cave too. Usually these Bristlenose Pleco eggs take 4 to 5 days to hatch. I'm not exactly sure of the exact time they were laid or the exact time they hatched, so it could have been closer to 4 days, but it is the 5th day since I showed you the eggs were laid. So those of you who have watched my Pleco breeding videos before know what I'm going to do next. I'm now going to gently lift the cave out of the tank with the opening facing up so that water will stay inside the cave, the father will still be inside the cave, all the babies will still be inside the cave. I have a floating breeder box in the tank, and I'm just going to gently swish water in and out of the breeding box. The father will extend his fins and keep himself anchored in the cave. He won't come out, but all the wigglers will be swished out by the flowing water. Now, I do this for a couple of reasons. First, it keeps all the wigglers in one place, so all the wigglers will be in this little breeding box for me. When they absorb their yolk sacs, it's easier for me to feed them, and they can easily get the food and find the food, and they're not all around the tank, and I don't have to go siphon them all up. When I do want to eventually move them to another tank, I can just lift the breeder box out and then put them in the new tank. So it's easier to collect them and feed them. And it's also easier on the father. Getting the wigglers out, he now doesn't have to guard the cave as long. There's nobody in the cave. His instincts will kick in and just tell him that he can leave the cave. There's no eggs, there's no wigglers in there. He'll leave the cave and he'll resume eating again, and it gets him eating sooner. Alright, so I got all the wigglers in the breeding box, minus maybe a few that did escape the cave before I did this. I know I saw a couple swimming around in there. I'll get them later. But you can see the little wigglers have those yolk sacs, and I'm not going to start even attempting to feed them until those yolk sacs are fully absorbed. So it's going to be a few days here, but I will fast forward now. Alright, so it's been a full week since the eggs were initially laid, and it's been 2 days since they hatched. And you can see they're a little bit bigger, a little bit more of the yolk sac has been absorbed. They all still kind of just pool up in the corners together, which is fine. Definitely not ready to be fed yet. I've seen no dead ones, and that's what I love about Bristlenose too. I also breed L333s, and the mortality rate on fry with Bristlenose is just great. In my experience, maybe I'm just not experienced enough with the L333s yet, and I'm sure, I'll get better as I go, but I always lose one or two. With the Bristlenose, I find that I never lose any. I never see any dead fry, so that's what I love about Bristlenose. But I'm now going to fast forward again. Alright, so it's been 2 days since the last update. Their yolk sacs are absorbed a lot more, but still kind of there. You can see that they're not grouping up as much. They're kind of a little more independent. I did kind of drop a couple of chunks of algae wafers in there in case they wanted to nibble on it, but I don't think they're quite ready. It might be a little too early. Sometimes I'll start them on a little tiny piece of cut green bean, or I'll crush up some flake food too, some tropical fish flake food. But I just don't think these guys are quite ready to eat just yet, so I'm now going to fast forward again. Alright, so it's now been 13 days since the eggs were initially laid and 8 days since they hatched. You can see these guys have pretty much absorbed their entire yolk sacs, and they're now actually nibbling on a cut piece of green bean. They are eating, so they're not just working off those yolk sacs anymore. So this will probably be the last update. This is usually where I move them over to the fry tank for grow out. I could leave them in the floating breeder box a bit longer and just keep feeding them, and it would be, I guess, easier for them to find food, and they wouldn't have to compete with the bigger plecos in the fry tank from earlier generations. But at the rate that this male and female are breeding in this tank, I'm probably going to need this floating breeder box very soon. So I'm just going to move these guys to the fry tank now. I haven't noticed any of the little fry having too much problem finding food. I do kind of overfeed in those tanks, so there's always food to find. But that's going to wrap up this video. These are definitely some of the best bristlenose you can get. As far as bristlenose go, the top ones I'd say are the Longfin Green Dragons and the Longfin Super Reds. Those are going to be the easiest to breed. They're just as easy to breed as normal bristlenose or albino bristlenose short fins. Just as easy to breed, and they sell for a lot more. I sell my Longfin Super Red bristlenose fry for $10 to $15 each, and that's at 1 to 1.5 inches in length. So if you do some quick math there, if I'm getting 50 fry from each batch and they're breeding every month, I could potentially, if I'm going on the low end and using the $10 number, I could potentially get $500 a month from this breeding pair. The biggest thing is obviously you got to raise them up for a few months to get them to that 1 to 1.5 inch size, and you got to find people to buy them, sell them on Craigslist, ship them, sell them to your local fish store. But yeah, definitely a great revenue stream, and I would definitely recommend these particular plecos for anybody looking to get into breeding plecos. But anyways, that's going to wrap up this video. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, hit that like button. And if you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button for lots of awesome pleco breeding videos just like this. And as always, thank you for watching.